Well, thanks for having me today.
I want to get your reaction. We know 8 Democrats broke ranks over the weekend to essentially throw their support and end the kind of procedural deadlock that we had seen in the Senate for the past 40 days. Your reaction to that?
My reaction stems a lot from the conversations that I've been having with everyday Floridians over the last 6 weeks to 2 months here in the state of Florida. The fear of 300% increases in their ACA subsidies being completely eliminated. It is life and death for so many of our Floridians. Florida has the highest amount of individuals on the ACA Obamacare, and these cuts not only are taking people off of the ability to even get access to health care, but when you are sitting with life or death decisions and trying to decide between groceries or your medicine and seeing a 300% increase on your monthly premiums, that's a really hard decision for so many Floridians. So we here in Florida, our congressional delegation is in lockstep with the people of our state, and we will continue to fight for Floridians every single day to make sure they have access to their health care.
We know as part of this, Democrats got assurances that the leadership would call for a vote, the extension of those health care subsidies. Is that enough, or do you think they should have gotten more of a concession or more of a guarantee before kind of giving up the what little leverage they had?
Look, let's take a step back. When President Trump first ran for president of the United States back in 2016, he promised to have a plan of how to deal with healthcare. And his only plan for those 4 years was to dismantle the ACA. Vote after vote after vote, he continued to push that. And then he was out of office for 4 years and then continued to run on getting rid of the ACA and Obamacare in his next term and says that he has a concept of a plan. Well, now, 10 years later, we still see nothing from President Trump or Republican leadership in the House or the Senate to say how they're going to actually fix healthcare here in the United States. So I'm sorry if I don't take their word that they're going to come to the table right now and negotiate when time and time again, Speaker Johnson, as well as Republican leaders in the U.S. Senate, have said that they're not going to come to the table and to negotiate on ACA subsidies. Where is Rick Scott? Where is Ashley Moody, the two U.S. senators who have the power to protect the people of our state? Instead, they fold time and time again and don't try to put the people of this state first. So we will continue to fight for them. For the people of this state every single day. But again, it is up to the Republicans in our state and in Washington, D.C., and the President of the United States to come to the table and to negotiate health care premiums for the 4.7 million Floridians who are about to lose their health care next year. They don't want to know about the games that are being played in Washington, D.C. They want to know that somebody is up there fighting for them. And unfortunately, we have two U.S. senators and a president of the United States who is not putting them first.
Do you think this was a mistake then by Democrats?
Well, first of all, it's not Democrats. The Democratic Party, you saw from myself to members of the Florida Congressional Delegation to a vast majority of U.S. senators that are Democrats that have voted no on this bill. It's unfortunate that there are 8 of our Democrats who broke rank. And for whatever positioning that they felt that they could trust the Republican leadership, the rest of the nation does not. We saw that on Tuesday. They want to stop the chaos. They want people in Washington, D.C. that are going to fight for them. So I do believe that the entire Democratic Party, the ecosystem, U.S. members of Congress, as well as in the Senate, all voted strongly to support the American people. I certainly am not in the ears of those 8 U.S. senators who broke rank, but I certainly hope for the American people's sake that the Republicans live up to their part of the deal and make sure that there is a real negotiation and conversation about healthcare subsidies. Otherwise, millions and millions of Floridians and millions of Americans are going to lose their healthcare next year.
What about we know there are also a lot of families here in Florida that have been impacted during this shutdown, whether it's because of SNAP benefits or working without paychecks for the thousands of federal employees that we have here in Florida that were kind of caught in the middle of this, and they've been struggling as the government had been shut down for the past 40 days.
Yeah, and you saw the cruelty from this administration. that while people across the nation were trying to make sure that SNAP benefits were getting to those recipients, which again are millions of Floridians. And as somebody who oversaw the feeding programs here in our state, we know that there is roughly 3 million people that are food insecure in our state, and 1.5 million of those of our children. And so we have a significantly large population in our state that are one paycheck away from being in those food bank lines or not receiving their SNAP benefits and having to make those really hard decisions about where their next meal comes from, all while the Trump administration fought all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court to allow him to starve the American people. That is what happened in the last week and a half, that you have a president who is more concerned about throwing lavish parties at Mar-a-Lago here in Florida than actually feeding the people of the state of Florida. Shame on President Trump and shame on all these Republicans who use this moment as negotiating bargaining chip of the American people. I mean, I go through TSA lines multiple times a week, and every single time I say thank you to all of our TSA workers who are there day in and day out without receiving a paycheck. And when I engage in conversations, they say, Miss Freed, I hope you're going to Washington, D.C. to negotiate this. I haven't been paid a paycheck yet, though members of the Republican Congressional delegation here in Florida and across the country are on vacation. How is that right? How is that fair? Those are the kind of conversations and questions that have been asked by the American people. And it is now upon the Trump administration and Republicans who control the House and the Senate, and all two branches of our government are controlled, and I'd say even the third of the Supreme Court are controlled by Republicans. And it is going to be on them to fix this economy today, to make sure that prices are coming down, that people can afford their health care, that people can afford to actually call America still home. People are starving in this moment. They're scared about what this administration has been doing to the economy, tanking it in every single reform. Everything is up. Everyday groceries are up. After school programs are being cut. And so it's causing additional strain on our families. Trump's economy is tanking. And unfortunately, the American people are paying a very big price for this administration.
We know in exchange for those 8 Democrats breaking ranks and ending the kind of shutdown stalemate and kind of leading to the ability for this vote today, they did get some concessions, but that didn't include a lot of guarantees beyond a vote on those healthcare tax subsidies. So there's a chance that after all is said and done, that still is not passed. And there was a 40-day government shutdown that caused a lot of pain for people. If that is the case, what do you make of that? Is that a worst case scenario for Democrats to have seen that, to have stood up for this for 40 days, only to for those 8 senators to give in and then still not get what Democrats were fighting for?
I think that over the last 40 days, and certainly as we go through these guaranteed votes, as your point, that there's no guarantee on the outcome, but it's guaranteed votes, and an extension of this continuing resolution to fund the government into the end of January. So we're going to be back at this conversation at the end of January. All of this time period really showed the American people two things. One is that Democrats across the country were fighting for them. You saw that at time and time again, whether it is local leaders at your local counties and cities, all the way up to your U.S. senators. Democrats were in lockstep trying to make sure that we're putting healthcare and access to healthcare at the front and center to all of our talking points and what we were doing on the ground, and exposing the Republicans for their lack of desire of helping the American people. They were more concerned about helping the billionaire friends and get their tax breaks, all so they can starve the American people and take away their health care. And I think that in this moment, what it also showed is how callous the Republican Party currently is, that they don't care about the American people, that it is games that they are playing up in Washington, D.C. with your taxpayer dollars, with your life on the line, with your quality of life. And so you saw at this moment, Republicans continuing to say, we don't want to talk about the ACA. We don't want to talk about healthcare. We're going to play this game of cat and mouse here and hide the ball. And at the end of the day, sure, we'll give you a vote. but we're not going to come here in good faith and tell you we're going to negotiate. And the reality is that the people that are going to be harmed the most are in red states that have refused to expand Medicaid, that have refused to create more rural hospitals and to create healthcare systems that is functioning for the everyday people that live in the South. And so what you're going to see in this moment is that more and more people in the southern parts of our state, in the Republican stronghold parts of our country, that they're going to be the ones who are going to be suffering the most because they're not going to have access to health care. And you're going to see families. I mean, we have been talking to this brave young woman down in South Florida. She is stage 4 breast cancer and has raising 4 children. And the fact that these subsidies are going to go up, she's going to have to choose between feeding her children and paying for her health care so she can get her medicine so she can stay fighting for her kids. These are the conversations that are happening every single day in communities and in families all across our country. And it is on the Republicans at this moment to understand that their constituents are hurting right now, are scared, and to do their job and protect the health care for millions of people in their states and millions of Floridians that are going to lose their health care if this is not fixed by next year.
If those subsidies aren't approved, was this 40-day shutdown a waste?
No, because I think it exposed the people of this nation what exactly what we're that we are dealing with in this moment, and that we are dealing with an authoritarian takeover of our country, where we have a president who would rather throw lavish balls and celebrate the redoing of the Lincoln bathroom and a 250 to $300 million ballroom that comes with about $280 billion of federal contracts for those donors. He's rather focusing on that than the healthcare and the economy of the people. I think I heard something earlier part of last week that he doesn't want to talk about inflation anymore and that he's going to get down to fixing the economy next year. What happened to the fact that right now, there is more debt on people's credit cards and are unable to pay them? That is showing that people can't afford because they're racking up their credit card bills because they don't have expendable cash. And then you're seeing increases in again, whether it is here in the state of Florida, property insurance, rent, general unaffordability in this nation. Inflation is going up, wages are coming down. Most of our corporations, I think we've lost 1.3 million jobs this year in the United States. Trump is crashing the economy every single day, but he's more focused on his lavish parties, lavish ballrooms than he is about the people that he's supposed to govern for.
Florida Democratic Party Chair Nikki Fried, always good talking with you. We appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus today.
Thanks for having me.